Hello, hello, hello. It's me, Marie. Um, Today I'm just gonna be doing some figure drawing practice, some sketching. Um, it's been a while since I've really gotten into art, so I've been trying to get back into it and trying not to be bad at it, but yeah, I'm just going to be trying to get myself unrusty. I haven't really been drawing much in the past couple of months due to my course load, my work load, my life load. um, and yeah, so first I'm going to be doing some wrist stretches. So I pulled up this cool little uh, diagram, uh, info, graph. What is it? Infographic. That's the one. That's the guy. So these are some really good wrist stretches. I've been doing stretches like this for a while. I think I should also probably time out little breaks here and there as well. Just, I've dealt with carpal tunnel for a couple years now, well, more than a couple years now. But I've been drawing since I was a little kid, and no one ever taught me like how you're supposed to like take care of your wrists. And you kind of should be taking care of your wrists in general, like let's be honest. Um, but nobody really taught me how to properly like hold like a pencil or whatever you use, um, or like how to, I really feel like they should be teaching us about like body tension from a younger age. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I just feel like, especially now that I'm chronically disabled, I've got chronic pain issues. Maybe I'm taking this a little bit more seriously than I used to, but yeah, so I'm gonna start by doing these flexions, extensions, yada yada. The way that I best remember it is, you've got your, you basically do it on one wrist in like each of the directions here. Um, and, it's good to hold it for a bit. Probably could have done this ahead of time, but I think that they're good to know. They're good to show. Good to, you know. I also tend to sort of like squeeze and like rub the like muscles around like my forearm, like kind of leading up to like my elbow, because I've noticed that like there's tension in there too. Um, and then yeah, we do the whole pushing your palms together, and there's like a bunch of like really good um, there's a bunch of great stretches and like exercises and stuff. I'm sure that there's better ways I could be like holding my stuff. Um, like holding my drawing pen and other, drawing implements and stuff, but also my muscle, it takes a lot to adjust somebody's muscle memory. It takes a lot of intention, so okay. So right now I'm gonna be sort of just talking a bit, yapping a bit while doing some really good like warm-ups. Um, I also hope this doesn't come through on my mic. Doesn't seem like it. Um, but yeah, so when we, when I was in art school, they were like, oh, you want to do like warm-ups, like loosen up your stuff, like, so we would do a lot of like just drawing like lines over and over and over again. And um, what was it? They showed us. It was like you push your, what was it? You push the straights and you pull the circles or something like that. So when it comes to like drawing line, like it looks. I mean, it looks fine. Like depending on what you're using, especially depending on like your pen pressure. Like, you know, kind of just looks better to do that. And but then you pull the circles. Oh yeah, and then they want you to draw like a million circles. It's not the most like imaginative thing in the world, but they're always like, "Oh, draw a bunch of circles. Draw, do a bunch of dots and stuff." They're always like, "Oh, that's really good." Um, that's a really good warm-up practice. And then I like to just do like play with the pen pressure and get myself in the habit of okay. So, I pulled up some fun reference pictures. Um, they're going to be. I followed this particular person for a while. The resources are. I don't know if they still go by this. But for the longest time, I knew them as Jukpub stock. They do stock images and reference pictures. I used to follow her on DeviantArt, which is, oof, that was a while ago. But, so that's why I say, oh, I don't know if this person's going by this anymore. I save a lot of pictures onto like hard drives and stuff. So I tend to save a lot of like reference pictures or inspiration pictures, and I'd like to be better about like saving the credit. But also, I mean, that doesn't really mean much if they go and change their handle. So last saw this person was Jukepupstock, but potentially not anymore. It depends. So what I wanted to kind of do, because again, it's been a while, so I kind of want to go through these and follow like the line of motion. Because again, this isn't just going to be me like, ooh, I'm sketching, ooh, I'm sketching, but kind of like yeah, like this is the line of motion. This is like, because again, I went to school for this. I might as well use it somewhere, considering that you know, I can get into the specifics of it. Um, Eventually, I guess it just doesn't really matter right this second. Unlike what happened with my art school. But I have schooling in it, and it's good for me to get back into the habit of doing this stuff too. So normally with figure drawing, with like gesture and figure drawing, it's best to have a live model, or to go out and like, what's the word? People watch, I guess. I mean, some people might think it's really creepy that you're watching them. There's like not a lot of like really subvert ways to sketch someone. And it's not like the same thing with like filming laws and stuff where it's like, oh, you need to get like, getting a person on camera. Whereas with sketching, it's usually just, you know, the subject of a drawing. But with figure drawing, it's best to have like a live model, which I have taken one gesture and figure drawing class in my life, and it was one of the best classes I've ever taken with some real nightmare moments. But it was a really nice class, and I'd love to take them again. Like, I'd love to do more gesture and like live drawing. Um, but I'm not an art major anymore, unfortunately, not a visual arts major anyhow. And I don't really have the spare cash to do like a non school related, like non degree related art, um, figure drawing class. So, stock images like these are really great resources. There's like different websites and stuff too that, it'll be like, oh, spend this much time on like a sketch and blah blah blah. There's a really good website that I'm blanking on the name right now. That's a really great resource for stuff like this. If I do more of these like Yap and Sketch streams in the future, I will probably pull that info up at some point. I'm just blanking on the name, or else I'd remember it right. I'd give it right now, but um, I mean, I'd like to do more art streams at the very least. But yeah, I figure while I'm like unrusting my art and finding my sort of inspiration again, it'd be good to just sort of stick to doing like casual sketches and stuff like that. So yeah, so this is the line of motion. So a line of motion, I mean, it kind of just is what it sounds like. It is a line that depicts like the flow of motion of a piece. So this one kind of also like it changes depending on like the person, because some people might see the line of motion as like that. Typically, the way I do it is it goes through the head, through the torso, through the body, down through like at least one of the legs, because it kind of shows like the center of gravity sort of like, so you have the person like kind of going that way, and then showing, you know, where the sort of bends and curves of the body are. Because then next we want to get the head, the shoulders, and the waist. So I'm going to turn off the poses here, and that way you see that you are just kind of left with this very abstract, like, sketch plan, basically. And then I believe we always sketched out the torso and the hips, which normally you wouldn't be tracing. I'm just going over this to do so. So then you have the torso and the hips. And then you would want to get the shoulder, like basically I do it in sockets. I think that's how you're supposed to do it, but you do the shoulder sockets with the arms, the elbow sockets, and then hands. And then this one's kind of difficult because of the foreshortening. See if that shows up. Yeah, it shows up a little weird, right? But then you do the legs and then the feet. And that's basically what you got. So typically, for these, so when we were in our classes, because one of the good things about art school, I mean, good things, or, one of the goals of these sorts of classes, especially in a figure, an animation, I was specifically an animation major, but specifically in animation, when they want you doing, like, why I was about to call it a mood board. When you're doing like storyboarding and thumbnail art and sketching, they want you to be able to do it like really quick. So you want sort of just like the vibe, like the very quick vibe of, you know, like what, 10 seconds? So you have like your 10-second sketches, your 30-second sketches. I think then it jumps up to like a minute and then 5 minutes. I think the longest we ever spent, because then we would like move into like the 10-minute, I want to say 10 minutes was the longest that ones that we did, but I could be totally misremembering because that class in particular was a 4.5 hour class. Um, which, if you've ever spent 4.5 hours of class time just drawing, like over and over and over and over again, drawing like stick figures over and over and over again, time stops feeling real. It was a winter semester class a couple years back, and yeah, it was just 4 hours nonstop of drawing and sketching. Um, so I figured it'd be kind of fun to go through these and like do that here, which, and this lady, I mean, I'm assuming, but this person has a bunch of like really good, usually with like the line of action, you kind of want it to just be, I mean, it's like supposed to be a solid like line of action. Um, like you don't want it to be like like, you know, this rather than, you know, because like that looks a lot less dynamic and interesting visually than, I know they're okay, so they're both squiggles. They're both lines. But one of my an artist who I technically kind of a family friend. He was a Disney animator. He worked on Frozen, I believe. He was a director for Frozen or something like that. He was something along those lines. Um, but I had a really good opportunity when I was in high school for him to give me direct feedback on my work. Um, and one of the critiques I got from him at the time was that my art it was good, he said, but it was stiff. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Because mind you, at the time I was completely, pretty much self-taught. And I was like, I don't know what that means. So when someone's like, "Oh wow, that's like dynamic and like it looks like it's in motion," like, you know, that doesn't look stiff. 'Cause like, let's say if I did it like that and just rather than like going with the shoulders, I went like that and did that. Like that's way more boring like in comparison. So, it's good to. And then plus, like, you want to be able to push it. Like, this pose alone is kind of boring. Like, you also want to be able to follow, like, the more interesting line of action. Because, like, this line of action, it's not really giving us much, even though it's, like, the direct through line, right? Because, like, you can follow her, like, she's curving her head to look up this way. So her neck and her torso are turning this way with the arm. So her torso is going this way, but it's also in the beginnings of twisting this way, right? Um, and like you can kind of see that because like you see that like she's not like you can see I'm not to be like ooh boobies, but you know rather than being like profile like where um we're looking like sideways at this. It's like like the body's actively in the process of turning, especially because you have this leg, which normally, because like in terms of like dimensional space, like this is arguably normally in front of the leg, right? Like, if you have somebody who's standing here, I'm standing here. you normally don't even see the other leg, like unless like they're in like a more interesting pose or whatever, because this leg from this point of view would normally be in front. But since this leg is the one that's normally in the back, but it's technically closer to us in this space than this leg. So, considering that we're still on this side of the body, but this one's in front, that body is going to be turning this way. This is all kind of stuff like that's really good to none of this is like necessary to think about in your art because, this is a lot of technical stuff, right? But it's kind of like little key details like this that really make like someone's art, because when you get to a certain level with your art, it kind of gets down to the little details. Like, okay, well, geez, what can I do to improve? Like, I'm really stuck. It's like little things like this that you can really start breaking down and be like, this is the area I need to focus on to get better. And again, these are all just from my experience. This isn't like a end all be all or anything. I know this has become more of like um a lesson than just like a casual yap and sketch, but I'm yapping about art. So we're following the torso, but then we can really like push it a little bit further, but like rather than just following like one to one, like what the pose is. You see what I mean? But yeah, I've gotten pretty bad with foreshortening, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so with this one, I guess I could also be, yeah, I'm gonna dim these a little bit, just to give myself better, okay, yeah, that's, well, but, whoa, okay, that one's a good one. And then, so to do the shoulder lines, you can also just like follow kind of like where the collarbone goes. And then like sort of a good way of thinking like is if the person was like wearing clothes, where would that go on them? Which I know this person's wearing clothes. Um, because usually also you get really good dynamic poses when the shoulders and the hips are going in opposite directions. You see that? So you have the shoulders basically doing that and the hips doing that. That creates like a really interesting like contrast of a pose, I would say. So yeah, then you have that for the torso. And again, this is just me sort of getting back into things here. Maybe eventually I'll get into like, if people want me to, I could get into doing like tutorials, if people are interested. But I would probably need to get better at my art again. I doubt people would want tutorials from somebody who hasn't been doing art for a while. So I guess for this one, again, normally it's like, oh, that's the line of action. But like since the arm is doing this like really neat thing, could be kind of cool to have that be the line of action. Or, because again, it's like the flow of like movement from like the up into like the force of gravity. Oh, yo, yo. Maybe is blue not what I'm wanting to sketch with right now? I think I'm for a change of color. Let's do magenta. Let's do a nice magenta. So this one's hard because technically the shoulder line is through here, right? Because like that is doing this. So that's interesting. But you kind of want to cut it with, that is interesting. Because like the head, like this is a great pose example for like, you know, oh, well, the head is up there and the torso is up here and this part of the body is doing this. Whereas, like, normally like you're gonna get, where, because like sometimes you might get poses where like the shoulders are here, but like the head is here. And then you like show it the ears and stuff where it is. Like it's not always gonna be like, oh, and here's the neck, and here's the shoulders, and doo-hoo-hoo. You know what I mean? And then no little ears. Oh ho 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 ho. I like how I went with the Danganronpa blood color. Um, so yeah, this one. Let's see. And then yeah, since I started up my art again, which it's a bummer when you feel like you've started making progress, um, and you have to like put it away. Like, and this can apply to anything. It's not just drawing, but like you have a hobby or something that like you're practicing at and getting good at, and then you have to put it away, for whatever reason. And then you get back into it and you're like, dang, I'm not as good as I like was before I had to stop. All this to say, I was getting really good at hands, and now I'm not good at hands anymore. And I have to completely relearn how to do hands. And I'm basically just like having to like learn all of this like from scratch again, which, whatever, right? Like it's not a huge deal, but it's it can be discouraging. I've been doing a lot of um like, you know, because there is like the right and wrong way to trace, right? I know what I'm doing right now is technically considered tracing, but like until you get like a good eye, like for dimensions, and for I guess anatomy, but yeah, I mean dimensions is a good word to use, um, because I kind of lost my eyes for dimension a little bit. Um, I think I mentioned this a bit during the Spyro stream last week, which that was a rough game. I don't think I'm gonna go back to playing it anytime soon. Um, but um, I had kind of burnt myself out really bad with commissions. Um, I mean, I guess like about a year or two now. Um, and it was one of the reasons why I stopped pursuing art, professionally speaking, I guess, because I knew like taking on a bunch of commissions and not having any time or energy to pursue like my own art, and like my own vision and like my own, wants for myself kind of made me realize like, oh, well, that's like all what the animation industry is. It's just taking on like other people's projects. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't do that. um so I went back to school, about a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago now, which I just got my associate's degree, um, which is the furthest I've ever gone with school. You know what? I'm not gonna comment on this lady's knees, but they're giving me a hard time. Um, but just between being burnt out from commissions, like because I needed to take on a bunch of commissions for a lot of reasons. Maybe at some point I'll talk about the ongoing, permanent, forever roommate dilemma. Um, dilemmy. um, but also, can we just talk about? I love like the cardboard like weapon references. Like genuinely, like I obsessed with these. Um, I had this kid in anime club. Maybe someday I will address the fact that I was in anime club. Um, the allegations are there. But um, yeah, there was this kid who would go around like making giant like cardboard foam weapons in high school. I don't think that shit would have flied today. I don't think that shit would fly anymore. Um, Especially because he was constantly like wanting to use them. Anyway, the weapons were like, to be fair to this guy, like the weapon, like they were cool as hell. um, but yeah, I had to take on a bunch of commissions, largely financial issues. My roommate at the time was not paying rent anymore. Um, so that's fun. Don't let yourself become a person who pays rent for um, someone in that particular kind of situation. But I had to pay rent, and so I was taking all these art commissions on, and I just burnt myself out really bad. And that's why like pacing and like incremental progress is important because like with anything, not just art, just anything in general, because you'll get really, really burnt out carrying yourself like that, you know? And preventing, I mean, and in some circumstances, like, you don't really have a hell of a lot of options, right? Like, people are like, oh, don't burn yourself out. And you're like, well, geez, how do I do that? But, um, like, I definitely wish I had been taking more time for, like, my projects and, like, what I wanted to do. Because I was not doing that. And I should have been doing that. And giving myself, like, time and room to breathe. um, okay. So yeah, I'm having a hard time with this, like, foreshortening thing, with these poses, so I might sketch around that. But it's also good to sketch with, like, different colors and stuff like that. But yeah, I burnt myself out pretty bad and just didn't have any urge to draw. And that's the thing too, is like my well, also due to that same roommate, our D&D campaign at the time fell away. And um my D&D character at the time was like a huge like source of like creativity for me, like a great, like she was basically she was my muse. um it's not even actually being dramatic, she really was like a muse for me at the time. um and we just didn't have that campaign anymore, so for like a lot of reasons I just kind of like lost like my drive. um and lost a lot of like mm, what's the word? I mean, yeah, I guess in general, I just lost a lot during that time. Um, and I've been getting into like sketching and drawing again here and there, like over the past like year, couple months ish. Um, but you know, still definitely really rusty compared to where I was at before. And I haven't been like able to complete a lot of like art pieces. Like, which honestly, I've been kind of surprised by how like cathartic doing like some of the thumbnails for like my streams have been so far. I've only done a couple of them, myself. Um, like, see, this, I would not, if I saw somebody else do this, I'd be like, I don't know how good that is. Um, but, it's like the signs of like good. Maybe I'll do like an art walkthrough at some point of like old sketchbooks and I have plenty. I have like oh, apologies. I have like plenty of like old sketch pages and stuff like this too. Um to look through for like a source of comparison, I guess. But um yeah, it's taken me a long time to get back into it. And I'm definitely glad to. I've never wanted to give art up, even when I decided, even when I made the decision, like, well, even if this isn't my job anymore, I still want to make art. Um, but I just haven't been. And, I haven't done a lot. Like, I have more hobbies. I mean, to be fair, I have more hobbies than I think I should. um, but they're still my hobbies. And I just haven't been able to like spend that that time or that inspiration on them like in the way that I feel like they deserve. See, what is this like weird nubby claw that I've been like instinctively doing? I finally had like gotten myself out of that and here I am doing it again. But yeah, it's definitely I'm glad to be doing art again. I think the hardest thing for me because I know it's kind of like kicked into the ground like of like oh the hardest you know hands are the hard because they are like hands are absolutely the most difficult part of the body to draw. I know some people who think it's like the face or the hair um and I can definitely see that but for me it's the hands. I need to do a lot more studies on it as well. um That's another thing I'd like to get back into doing is art studies. Because, um, you, like, I guess that's, an art study is, like, the most, like, professional way, like, or I guess acceptable way to, like, um, trace somebody's art. I mean, you're not tracing, like, because there's a difference between tracing and copying. There's a difference between tracing, copying, and stealing. Because tracing is this. You're going over someone's pre-existing art and just tracing it. And there's ways you can do that that are like okay, especially like especially during practice, um, and where you're just trying to get like a pose or something down, or like something that I do when I'm coming up with poses is um, get like a bunch of different reference pictures and then like sort of like cut them up and like glue them together like a Frankenstein where you you know like say like oh I took the legs of this but I wanted the arms of this and so I take this and put it on there but keep the legs and then I just draw that as like a singular pose like that's an instance of doing that, which is really beneficial. You can create like some new dynamic poses that way. And that way you're not just like ripping off somebody's like one-to-one pose. Um, and then copying is like when you're not tracing, like you're not like going over their art, but there's an element of their style that you're trying to, whether you're just trying to copy it in that moment for that piece or what have you, or you're trying to like add that element to of their art style as part of your art style, that's where you're trying to copy them. Um, and that's why I like specify like, oh, I like that part of their art style because I don't know, maybe I have nuanced takes on this because I was an animation major, and one of their big things was like you need to be able to emulate an art style that's not yours. Um, like specifically, like you need to be able to animate on model, and like even like ringing true for 2D animation. Like you have like a character model, and you want to be able to animate that and keep it like on model. So if it's something that's like not in your art style, like you still need to be able to copy it and like animate it. Like so that it's all a cohesive, like coherent finished product. Um, and then what did I say? I said there's tracing, there's copying, and then there's stealing, which stealing is like, so the other two things I said are like they have circumstances where like it's not only okay to do it sometimes, but it's also like encouraged. Um, Stealing is never encouraged. You never, like, not just straight up stealing. Um, that's like freaking AI or like tracing over one to one and like selling someone or stealing someone's design and saying it's yours. No, 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 we don't do that. Not in this house. I got accused of that on DeviantArt. Um, Again, DeviantArt drama. Maybe I'll make a. So back in high school, I did adoptables, and hey, maybe I'll do adoptables again someday. Um, they were actually like pretty lucrative for me. I mean, lucrative. They were, I mean, I had fun making them too. Um, but they they made me good money. Like I'm not even gonna I'm not even gonna lie. I made like I was able to support myself and break away from my parents' financial abuse little by little through making money off of DeviantArt doing adoptables. Um, and I had somebody accuse me. There was a really like I don't know. This is like those like I guess fandoms or like hobbies where there's like discourse or drama of something that like you've never heard of, like would never know about, like unless somebody who was part of it like talked to you about it. Yeah, so DeviantArt adoptables drama. Frankly, there is drama anywhere. Anywhere. You will find drama in any community, and it's so silly. um, but I forget the exact names we used for them, but I think they were like closed species or something. Basically, they were like these pet design adoptables or something that, you draw them and then sell the specific design and blah blah blah. I don't know what the proper legality of all of that is, but I mean selling them was fine. Like selling them was allowed. Um, but like I don't know what like the legal like trademark, copy mark, whatever would be. So one of the biggest names who I have not seen anything of for a while, which like to be fair, this incident, even though they weren't really directly involved. No, they actually, no, they did get involved at some point. I forgot. Um, but basically, I really, really loved their style. And I was like 13, man. Like, I was like 14, 13. Like, we're talking like this is my first like drawing tablet. I'd been like fans of websites like Chicken Smoothie and like other like pet collecting websites and stuff. So I found out about DeviantArt adoptables and I was like, "Oh, these are great." And I was like, "I could do these." And so I started doing mine and I had my own like thing I was doing for a bit, which like anybody who's like talking crap on like teenagers like having like closed species on DeviantArt where they're like, "This is my own species." Like, yeah, no duh. Like they're not gonna be like they're not always gonna be the most creative thing. Um, Mine were just like like oh, they were basically like pixie cats or something like that. Like you could customize like the wings, the fluff level, the tail, the blah blah blah. And like you change like the rarity and um but um I guess my style had been getting a little like too close to this other person's because this other creator like called me out on it. And like and when I say like it wasn't a hey, just like letting you know like your art style like it's clear that you admire this artist like your art's getting a little close to theirs though, so it might be good to just sort of like do something a little differently, but I like that you do this and this. Like I see that these parts are, your own style. Like um just, it might be smart if you sort of distance yourself like stylistically or something, right? But no, they came up to me, they came into my comments and were like, you're copying this person, like intentionally, like you are copying them. And I was like, "Oh, I definitely didn't mean to." Um I can definitely I'm like now that you've like brought it up to me, like I can see how like it seems like I'm doing that. Um like that's not my intention. I really admire this person. And then the person themselves threatened to sue me over DeviantArt adoptables. Like apparently they like which I don't know, this could be totally like specifying like I had never seen anybody be like about the law like this particular person was. So I could be like very much like specifying who it is by saying this. Um, but they they were like, I trademarked my thing. You're copying my thing. Like, how dare you? Like, change it. And I was like, I'm already doing it, but like, you kind of suck. And I didn't like that person anymore. um, Following that exchange, I was like, oh, this is why they tell you not to meet your heroes. Okay. um, I don't fully remember. Oh, yeah, because of the copy. Which, and mind you, like, I recognize that I, like, was definitely getting, like, a little too close to the sun, uh, with, you know, like, mind you, my biggest, like, defense on it genuinely being a matter of, like, that artist inspired me. I'm not trying to steal their work. I just genuinely am inspired by them. I was a teenager. um, but yeah, so I mean, I could even recognize at the time, like after, having it pointed out to me that I was not stealing in like, I was stealing. I wasn't like being smart. Like my um which it wasn't very like it didn't feel very nice to be like also treated like like, oh, you're doing this on purpose. And it was like, I'm really not. Like, I promise I'm not doing this like intentionally. Like, you can absolutely subconsciously pick up on like, again, it's like usually you see someone's like a bit or piece of someone's style that you really like and you want to implement it. Um, but then maybe sometimes like, because people's art styles can shift like crazy over like the course of time, right? And like I've had my art style change drastically like a couple of times. Um, but yeah, it's just crazy. Some people definitely do not uh take well to their art being, you know, I'm not gonna be like, oh, well, it's clearly they didn't like that their art was being highly regarded, because that's just petty of me. But I also don't understand threatening teenagers on the internet. Unless they're like I'm not gonna say there's never good reason to threaten teenagers on the internet, but I'd like to think that there's almost never like good rational cause for it, you know. Not that I don't think that they knew my age, though I probably had it in my description, but I don't know. DeviantArt was a wild place, and then they started making all of those changes that they made that was like, ooh, I'm gonna get out of here. Because they started making a bunch of changes to their, like, paid memberships. I don't remember, like, all the nitty-gritties of it because it was a while ago when they were doing this. They didn't call it Nitro. I don't remember what they called it even. But I was like a DeviantArt premium member because, like, you could, there were a lot of benefits to having it. Um, like, if you were, like, an art seller. Um, but yeah, they got rid of a bunch of stuff that was really good, and I don't remember why I fully took the plunge to leave DeviantArt. I think it also was like around the time where I think I just like switched to using Tumblr full time by then. But oh, apologies if you hear my cat being absolutely ugly. He does this ugly meow. Like I call it his ugly meow because I've never heard a cat sound worse. And he doesn't stop when he gets on that for some reason. Okay. Um, I'll go for a couple more minutes, but then I think for my first drawing stream, I think leaving it at an hour is okay. Actually, my cat is screaming at the top of his lungs. So, I'm gonna hop off. But this was a really good sort of start back into things. I'm gonna be doing this, I don't want to like set like a determinate amount of like a determinate schedule or anything, but I'd like to do more of these in the future. But also my throat's starting to get a little sore, so I'm gonna have to get used to talking at length during streams and stuff. But yeah, so this was a good stream. Thanks for anybody who stopped in even for a little bit if they did, or anybody who might find this VOD later on. But I'm gonna go ahead and head off for the night. Me and my friends are doing a repo stream this Saturday around the same time at 6 p.m. PST. So if you are interested in that, go ahead and give us a, come on over, hang out. It should be fun. But yeah, I'm gonna head off.